Hi, I am Jen Wilson from IamJenWilson.com, and I'm here today to take you through a session to help soothe and calm the nervous system so that it can relieve any stresses, any feelings of anxiety, any feelings of overwhelm. So I want you to start off bringing yourself into a comfortable seated position so that you can sit with a nice tall spine. If sitting on the floor feels uncomfortable, please grab a cushion and pop that under your backside to elevate your hips. That sometimes can take a little bit of pressure off the lower back. And just let your hand rest, palms face up. And we're just going to check in with the body. So if you're okay to close your eyes, close your eyes. And if closing your eyes is not something that feels nice for you, then just take your gaze down to the floor. So we're just trying to eliminate as many distractions as we can. I want you to take 2 big deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, so that when you're exhaling, you're sighing the breath out. Do that one more time. And then you're going to bring one hand onto your chest, around the area of your heart, the other hand onto your stomach. And I just want you to notice the hands as they place onto your body. Take your breathing back to breathing in and out through the nose. And notice your breath as it comes into the body, notice the breath as it leaves the body. Notice if there's a sense of movement under your hands. So for many people, they'll get a sense of movement under the hand at the chest, but maybe not quite so much at the hand at the stomach. So if you're not getting much sensation of movement around the stomach, try and let go of any tension that you're holding onto there. Sometimes that can take a little bit of focused practice. And sometimes as well, it's easier to do when we come into a lying position. So we're only going to sit here for another couple of rounds of breath, and then we're going to change our position. And you might be able to feel a bit more freer around the stomach when your spine feels more supported. So after your next exhale, we're going to make our way over onto our back. Now if you want to keep your eyes closed as you do this, you are more than welcome to, but if you prefer and feel more comfortable with the eyes open, then just please let your eyes be open. So bringing yourself round and lying down onto the floor. So when we come down, I want you to check in how the neck, how the shoulders, how this upper part of the body feels. Now if you feel tight through the chin, so if the chin's lifting up towards the ceiling, then you're maybe quite tight in at the back of the neck. So it could be useful here to get a cushion, probably smaller than this one that I have handy, and pop it underneath the back of your head just to elevate your head slightly so that your chin can stay more tucked in, and it might just feel more comfortable to have a cushion there. If your shoulders are really rounded forwards, so if you're tight across the chest, you might want to move your arms a little bit further away from the body, and rather than have the palms face down, either have the palms resting so that they're resting on the pinkies, or turn the palms up. So just find a space where it feels like things can be open across the front of the body. Option to have the eyes either open or closed here. Think about the rib cage and the spine, and try and allow that just to settle and rest into the floor. So if you feel your clothes are ruffled underneath you or anything feels uncomfortable, you might need to adjust your position. So sometimes lifting and laying parts of the body can just allow you to settle in and feel more comfortable. And then just allowing the feet to be rested into the floor. So we're going to keep our knees bent just now, just to keep the pressure off the lower back and allow the muscles in around the lower back to be more restful and relaxed. And taking a couple of deep breaths in and out here. And then starting to bring your attention into the breath and following the breath into the body. And if you found that your tummy wasn't moving so much when you were in that seated position, is there anything that you can do to let the tummy muscles relax so that when you're inhaling, you get a slight rise of the tummy, and when you're exhaling, you get a slight fall? When you start to be able to get that movement, if you then take your attention to the back of the body as you're taking that inhale and the belly's rising, you might notice that the lower back slightly lifts from the floor, and then as you're exhaling and the belly starts to soften, the lower back drops back down into the floor. And it's not a big movement, it's not an intentional movement, it's just something that's happening within the body with your breath. So if you have a really tight lower back, or you get any pain or discomfort around the back of the pelvis, just doing this breathing technique can sometimes free the muscles up and let them be a bit more restful. If you want to place your hands onto your tummy, you can place your hands onto the tummy if that gives you a better sense of allowing things to be more restful and relaxed here. After your next exhale, we're going to bring the knees up into the chest, one hand around the shin, and gently rock from one side to the other. So we're massaging the spine into the floor here. Now you can keep your legs together as you do this if that feels nicer, or you can let your knees fall apart, or anywhere in between. Still thinking about those smooth, controlled breaths. And then letting the weight settle in the centre of the pelvis, bringing the feet back down onto the floor. And let the hands rest down to the sides of the hips with the palms face down. So we're going to do a bit of movement for the arms. When you're ready on an inhale, you're going to lift the arms up and let them float up and overhead. And then as you're exhaling, let the hands float all the way back to either side of the hips. So as you're going through this movement, notice how this feels around the shoulder, around the chest, but also notice as you're bringing the arm up if the ribs feel like they're lifting up off the floor. And if they are, I want you to engage the tummy muscles just a little bit to hold the ribs down and see how that changes your movement. So if you're really tight anywhere down the side of the body here, your ribs will lift just to allow you to do the movement. It's kind of like the body's cheating very slightly just to get into shape. So by engaging these upper tummy muscles, it holds the ribs down and allows this freedom and movement to happen in around the shoulder joint. And if your arms are only going back so far and then they feel like they're getting stuck, just let them go to that point, and then let your elbows bend so that the back of the hands can touch to the floor, and then straighten the arms back up and come all the way back. And this can feel different every single time you do this movement. So don't worry if things feel really tight today, and another day at another time they might feel completely different. When your hands come back to the sides of the hips, we're going to turn the palms over so the palms are faced up. Then we're going to start to make a snow angel movement. So keeping the back of the hands down towards the floor, start to move the arms away. Now if you've got a carpet here, you might want to have your hands slightly lifted off the floor just so you don't get a carpet burn on the back of the hands. And only moving the arms up as far as feels comfortable, and then moving the arms all the way back, nice and steady, until the arms come back to the sides of the hips. Do that one more time, moving the arms away from the body. And then letting the arms come all the way back. So make sure you're not holding your breath as you go through this movement. And then when your arms come back to the sides of the hips, just let them rest wherever feels most comfortable, still allowing the chest area to be open. Now we're going to start to draw the tummy muscles in to push the lower back into the floor, tuck the tailbone, and then start to lift the spine up off the floor. So the movement starts from the pelvis, and then letting each of the vertebrae lift one at a time as you roll up. And then as you're lowering back down, letting each of the vertebrae lower back, trying to get it to lower back down one at a time. So if your back feels quite tight and that roll up feels like your spine's lifting in a big chunk, then we're going to go a little bit slower the next time we come back down. So when you come to the top, take a big deep breath in. And then as you're breathing out, slowly start to roll down. So we're using that exhale to let the muscles be more restful. Then when you run out of breath, you're just going to pause, take another inhale. And then as you exhale, slowly again, gently place the spine down into the floor. So we're trying to get the muscles just to relax and let the spine melt. Almost like we're going in a slow motion massage here. Notice as you're bringing the hips up, if your chin is starting to lift, and if it is, just try and keep the chin tucked in so that as we come up to the top, the chest is moving towards the chin. That's going to help keep the neck long and create that length in the spine. And then coming all the way back down. And again, stopping as many times as you need to so that you can take that inhale and then move on with the exhale. When your pelvis comes back down to the floor this time, let the spine rest. Move the legs away so that you're lengthening the legs out. Point the toes to one side of the room. We're going to take the arms overhead, reach the fingers to the other side. Doesn't matter if you're getting a lift through the ribs here. We're going to inhale and create as much length in the body as you can. And then as you're exhaling, just release and let go. Bend the knees to bring the feet back flat onto the floor. This time we're taking the arms out in line with the shoulders. And let the knees come over to one side. So we're just going to let them drop there. And I want you to notice how this feels for your lower back, for the outside of your hip, for the inside of the groin. If you feel really tight in around this top area, keep the top leg a little bit further back. If things feel nice and open here, then maybe you bring that top leg a little bit further over. But you're always tuning into your body, listening to it and adjusting what it's telling you today. It doesn't matter how this looked yesterday or how it's going to look tomorrow. And then once you've got this lower part of the body settled, if it's okay for your neck, turn your head away from the knees so that you're looking along that lengthened arm. And just taking a couple of deep breaths in and out here to let the body rest. And then keeping your eyes on the fingertips, we're going to start the movement from the breastbone. So start to turn the breastbone, lift the arm, eyes following the fingers as you come all the way over until the hands land on top of each other. Then starting the movement from the breastbone again, eyes still staying on that hand that's lifting. And then let that hand float all the way back. And just doing that 2 more times, so leading from the breastbone. Let the arm follow. Leading from the breastbone, let the arm follow back. Eyes are following the fingers. And then 1 more time. Lead from the breastbone, eyes following the fingers. And then back, lead from the breastbone. When your arms come back out wide, turn your head back to the centre, bring the knees back up, and then take the knees over to the other side. And just notice how this side feels. It might feel completely different. So you might need to bring this top leg into a different space than you had on the other side. You might need to lift the hips up or lift the shoulders so that you feel really comfortable in this shape. When you're happy you've got that, turn your head away from those knees, looking along that lengthened arm. Use the breath to settle here. And then when you're ready, leading from the breastbone, eyes following the fingers, bringing the arm up and over. Leading from the breastbone, eyes following the fingers, go all the way back. And then 2 more times, following those fingers. So we'll lead from the breastbone to try and allow this rotation to start in the upper part of your spine. It's sometimes easier to start from the waist, but it's more beneficial to start from the upper part of the spine. And then when you come to lying back out, arms wide, let them settle there. Bring your head back to the centre. Bring the knees back up to the centre. Bringing the knees back into the chest, one hand on each knee, and circle the knees round. So we're going 2 circles in one direction, 2 circles in the other, massaging the lower back into the floor. Now this might feel nice and you might want to continue keeping the legs together with the knees dropping off, 2 circles in each direction, or you might want to stop both knees going round and take one knee round and get the movement more into the hip area. So if you go to the single leg, do 2 circles in each direction and then switch to the other sides. And you might want to mix and match and do a little bit of both, whatever feels nicest for you. Keep the breath smooth. And then after you finish your next one, bringing the feet back down onto the floor. Lengthening one leg away and have the leg so that the foot's sitting wider than the hip. Take the other leg out and do the same thing there. Letting the feet flop out to the side. Now if you feel like your lower back's pulling up off the floor here, you've got 2 options. You can either put a couple of cushions in underneath the knees so that the knees are a bit elevated. Or if you don't have any cushions handy, you can bend the knees to bring the feet so that they sit outside the hips and let the knees just rest in against each other. Your hands, you can have either palms face up away from the body, allowing the chest area to be open, or you can let one hand rest on your tummy, one hand rest on your chest area. So whatever option feels better for you, or whatever combination of these options. Wherever you are with this movement, we're going to take it into relaxation. So I want you to think about the toes and just wiggle the toes out. Taking a couple of deep breaths in and out as you're doing that, trying to get the feet to be as restful as possible, then letting the feet rest. And then we're going to turn from the hip, so if your leg's lengthened out, you're going to turn the foot in and then turn it out. If your knees are bent and the knees are together, just move one knee away from the centre line and then bring it back in. So do that a couple of times to each side. Just trying to loosen off around the front of the hip, the sides of the hip, and then let that rest. And then you're going to just squeeze into one butt cheek and let that side of the hip lift, and then do the same thing on the other side. So squeeze and lift, squeeze and lift. So just getting a little bit more movement in towards the back of the hip and in towards the lower back. And then lifting one shoulder and laying it down, and lifting one shoulder and laying it down. And if your hands are away from the body, maybe turning the palms face down, turning the palms face up a couple of times. And then letting that rest, and then letting the head roll from one side to the other. Just using the weight of the head pressing into the floor or the cushion, rolling the neck out. And then letting the head settle wherever it feels most comfortable. Either having your eyes closed or your gaze settling on something that the gaze can just soften. If it's comfortable for you to breathe through the nose, breathe through the nose. Bringing your attention into the body and noticing the body from the top of the head to the tips of the toes. Doing a scan down the body and noticing if there's any tension being held anywhere. Take your attention to that point of tension. Take a big deep breath in and slow exhale out, trying to let go of anything at all that you're holding on to. And just doing that for another 2 or 3 breaths. And then bringing your attention back to the full body resting here on the floor. And taking a moment to give yourself some thanks and gratitude for giving yourself this little bit of time to do a really gentle yoga practice. We've brought attention into our breath, attention into our body. We've brought some attention into letting go of anything that's not serving us, any tension that's not useful. Letting go of trying to make a shape with our body that doesn't feel good. And give yourself that thanks and gratitude for giving yourself that time and space. And then if there's anybody or anything else that you want to send gratitude out to, use this time now to send that gratitude out. And then when you've finished sending your gratitude out, bringing your attention to the points of the body that are in contact with the floor. Notice how the weight drops into the floor and the floor fully supports your weight. As you're breathing in coolness and calmness into your body. And as you're breathing out, your cares and worries are floating away. I'm going to also invite you to use this time to set a positive intention or goal, something that you wish to come true in your life. And you're going to set it in a short, positive statement and then repeat it to yourself 3 times. So for example, you could use something like, I am calm, or I am focused, or I am love, or anything at all that you wish to come true for you. And when you repeat it to yourself 3 times, do repeat it with full feeling and awareness, as though it's something that's already true for you. So I invite you to stay here for as long as feels comfortable for you to stay here, for as long as you need. And only when you feel ready to come back into the day, remember this sense of peace and calm that you've cultivated in your own body, and know that you can come back to this at any time. When when you are ready to bring yourself back into the day, slowly bring yourself out of your relaxation by wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes, stretching the body out and giving your arms and legs any movement at all that they feel like they need. And then when you're ready, go into your day with peace and calm.